bereavement, divorce, trauma, car accident, counselling. Why do we need it? Hello and welcome to another English podcast with Paul. I'm your host, Paul. And as always, unedited, unscripted, natural, native English. And my accent is a British English accent. So if you like my accent and you like my pronunciation, please turn up the radio, put on the headphones, and let's dive into counselling. Okay, as always, I have some notes. So you may see me glancing down. I've got the laptop on and let's dive into counselling. So personally, I've had a little bit of counselling, but I'm very lucky that I have somebody close to me that is a qualified counsellor. Now, I've mentioned before about the different levels of therapist or therapeutic counselling. You know, I said that there's like advice level down the bottom here, and then you've got those that have done like some training, some CBT training for very short and minor issues. And then you've got the qualified counsellor, like degree level counsellor that can give therapeutic counselling and training, that can spend many, many months and years helping and supporting people in counselling. And then above that, you've got those that are at doctorate levels that are able to prescribe medications for those with real serious, strong psychological issues and problems in their lives. All right, okay. So I'm talking about the third one up, you know, not just a bit of advice, not just a few weeks training course, but a proper qualified counsellor that know what they're doing and have been given training at college or university for a few years. That's what I'm talking about here. Right, so like I said, I'm very lucky to have somebody that I can talk to and speak to. And I've found for the last, I don't know, maybe more than 10 years, a strong interest in counselling, you know, like almost like a hobby. I don't personally counsel anybody, but the person I speak to is a practicing registered and, yeah, registered with, what is it, BACP, the British Counselling, whatever it's called, is registered. So I'm very lucky in that respect. And I find it fascinating. It's not something I could ever do, but it is extremely fascinating. So what I've done is I've written down a list of thoughts that one might have if they want to go to a counsellor or they think they should go to a counsellor. So this is my thought process of what they might be thinking or what you might be thinking should you go to a counsellor. All right, let's dive in. All right. So why you need a counsellor? Well, a bit like I said in the intro, that if you've been through something traumatic, a lot of the times we bury it and we carry on with our busy, hectic lifestyles. But that's really, really unhealthy to just swallow up and bury it and not exercise those feelings, those concerns. Whether it's been a divorce or a car accident or a bereavement, these things really affect us, and not just on the outside, but deep down on the inside, you know, in our subconscious. And these things can percolate, you know, they can sit there for a while, but sometimes these things can build and build and build, or you could go through your entire life and never have any counselling, but it's highly unlikely that you're not going to have some kind of behavioral outburst or some way it will manifest itself in a negative way, whether it be in your relationship or whether it be in some of your addictions or something like that. So it's highly recommended, even just for normal mental health exercise, to get some counselling. And I personally believe counselling from a professional is better than having a friend or a mother or a relative to talk to and soundboard and offload your concerns. I think a counselor is much better trained to how to deal with them and without taking things personally or giving their own biases in that area. So it's more of a case of, can I afford not to go to a therapist? That's the question I'd be asking, especially if you know some of the things that I've learned along the way. All right, let's dive in. So, do I need a counselor? Yeah, I think everybody should have a counselor. Even children sometimes. Sometimes a lot of children go through some scary, traumatic things in their life. It's really hard to go through life with no trauma. It's really, really hard. Okay. How do I choose a counselor? Well, unfortunately, there are phone books and libraries and lists of registered therapists and counselors, and that's a very good place to start, somebody that is registered. But actually what it comes down to is how you connect and how you gel with that therapist. So it might be like trying to find the perfect builder or the perfect doctor. You know, you try some out, and if you don't get on, then you move on to another one. Don't invest too much time and waste too much time trying to find a good counselor that you connect with. The room. Okay, so often people think about a room where you'll lie down and the therapist will be behind you scribbling notes and judging you. That's not generally the case. Normally it's just a room with maybe one window, no distractions. Often there'll be a clock behind the not the therapist's head, but the client's head. So the client is not distracted, but the therapist can track where the progress is in that session and time. So often a therapist in the last kind of 10 minutes will try to wrap up the emotions and summarize and tidy up the counseling, the session, so the person's not left distraught when it's time to go out the door. Not always the case, not always possible, but there you go. So it's generally a chair facing each other, and probably some tissues on the table in front of you, maybe a glass of water or something like that. And sometimes the counsellor will have notes. Quite often they won't. They'll just remember it and write it down. Okay. The first session. The first session is kind of the most important in regards to just feeling comfortable in the room, and speaking with your counsellor, and just feeling safe, really. So that first session is quite important. We'll go into it a bit more, but I wanted to state about this the working alliance agreement. Working alliance agreement. And that is generally between you and the therapist, what you agree to be the rules of this engagement, of this relationship. All right, there has to be rules for there to be progress to be made, and often it's something like, if you feel suicidal or you have suicidal thoughts, that you will contact the therapist before doing anything silly. All right, there's never really promises, but an agreement to try your hardest to do this first. And it's generally personal between the therapist and the counselor, or what the therapist does in their normal practice, what they prefer the guidelines to be. All right, so that could be a case of not rescheduling, and that's not because of the counselor wants the money, but because continuing the therapy, ongoing, specifically in a path, is done on purpose. So you get into a rhythm of things, you've got that ability to connect, and for obviously very good reasons to have that consistency. But it could be anything. You and the therapist could have this agreement for anything. All right, and it is something that you guys are both bound by. You both agree on the rules. Okay, so like I said, the first session getting to know one another, and the room, and feeling safe. Now, some people will say that I sat in the room and the counsellor said nothing. After hello, when we sat down, the counsellor may have said nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that's not a bad counsellor. Actually, that's a very good counsellor. The idea of this space, this safe space, is for you to open up. So the whole idea of counselling is about you expressing your feelings about your situations and about your life. And the counsellor there is not to judge you. He's not to advise you. If a counsellor gives you advice, that's a bad counsellor. The counsellor is literally there to steer you in a particular direction, offer you opportunities to discuss and to go down particular routes. But it should all come from you. That's why you're in a safe space. It's got to come from you. It's like taking a horse to water and said, drink, drink. You can't make the horse drink unless it's thirsty. You can't get somebody to go to a counsellor and a therapist and say, right, now do this, 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 and this. It doesn't work that way. It has to come from you, from inside you. That's why often a counsellor will say nothing. And often that awkward silence is the pressure for you to start opening up and discussing things. Because it's not about the counsellor. You're not there to listen to the counsellor. The counsellor is there to listen to you and to help you make sense of what you are reflecting to the world. So if you have a bad relationship with your boyfriend or husband, the counsellor should help reflect that back to you of what you come across like, what you sound like, what you look like, what your actions are, for you to then make a balanced, informed decision of how you want to proceed with your relationship. All right? So it's not about the counsellor, it's about you and seeing the reflection of you in this world, whether it's transference, whether it's addiction, whether it's a bereavement. All these things are about you and how you interact with the world. It's a very hard and difficult concept to fully understand. And I really recommend this book here. This is the best book I've ever seen. It's really, really good. It's called Counsellor for Toads. And it's by, I don't know if you can see it there if you're not listening, by Robert DeBoard. Robert, D-E, and then Board, B-O-A-R-D. A Psychological Adventure. Now this is an awesome book. I recommend everybody read it. It's not too difficult, but it's not super simple either. And that really explains the journey of what it is to spend time with a counsellor. It's a very good book. Counselling for Toads. Right. Okay, the room, the first session, the Working Alliance. I don't like the silence. They are not. They are doing nothing. Well, I've said about that. That is a good sign. Will they ask me about my childhood? Well, actually, it's generally about you and what you ask and what you suggest and what you bring up. Like I said, it's about you. The counsellor may offer suggestions and may try to steer you in a particular direction and help you unpack, unravel, and see for yourself. You have to learn it for yourself. Much like the horse in the water, much like a child coming up with their own ideas. All right, the counsellor is reflecting and helping you understand and see things yourself. How long will it take? Well, how long is a piece of string? Some counselling sessions can be 1 or 2 days. Some counselling sessions can be decades long. I personally think it's healthy to maintain an ongoing relationship with a counsellor, but that depends on your preference of whether you like to talk or whether you like to improve the person of who you are. Okay. Why do they ask how I feel about them? Now, that's interesting. How do you feel, the client? How do you feel about me, the therapist? That's a very introspective question. because then that opens up the doors and opens up the gates for a conversation about how the relationship is moving forward, backwards, or still. Because often it's a reflection of who you are and how people react with you. Okay. Are they my friend? No. Most people feel very, very connected with their counsellor. When you get a good counsellor you like, most people feel very, very connected, and that they could be your best friend and tell them everything and all your deepest, darkest secrets. But they are a professional. They are a professional, and they are there to help you. All right? They are there to help you. They're getting paid. You need to really understand and remember, this is a paid professional relationship. They are not your friend. I don't want to talk about it. That's fine. You don't have to talk about it. There's nobody forcing you to do anything. Like I said, it's got to come from you. I sobbed like a baby. That is a good thing. Opening yourself up, crying, whether you're a man or a woman, is good. Allowing those expressions to come out. It's really, really good. The pent up energy from maybe emotions and feelings from the past. A really good thing to cry. I never knew I had so much stuff in my past. That is true. We forget just how much we're holding on to. It's crazy how much we have in our minds, in our hearts, in our subconscious that we're holding on to. And it affects our everyday life. It affects our children. It affects our career and our work life. And our relationships with our loved ones. Will I ever be fixed? Well, that depends on you, whether you want to delve into those deepest, darkest corners of your subconscious. If you want to, and you do, and you brave it through and come out the other side, then yes, you will be a healthier person, a more rounded, balanced human being, and self-aware and aware and have empathy for other people. So potentially, yes, you will be fixed given time and given your inclination to want to. An hour is never long enough. This is true. Even some of my classes with my students, we get so involved with a topic and so deeply invested, we don't want to finish. And often I'm running over time, which is bad practice. Sticking to the time is making every day and every hour very, very valuable. We'll get back to that. I'm finding this very therapeutic and I don't want it to end. Well, sometimes it doesn't have to end. If you want to maintain a relationship with your therapist and, the therapist has the time and the money and inclination, some therapists might prefer to just help people for a short period of time until they're better. Other therapists are happy to have an ongoing relationship with people for their everyday lives and lesser concerns. That depends on your relationship and your conversation with your therapist. I have this new knowledge and tools, but can I grow? I believe you can. If you want to, you can grow. There's no reason why you can't. Old wounds tear open. So this is normal for you to feel like you've repaired yourself, you've healed these scars, and then something happens and it feels like it's teared open again. And that's kind of like when you give up smoking. It takes a little bit of time. You may go into back in the day, and maybe you would have gone into a smoky place, and then it reminds you again, oh yes, I used to smoke, I used to do this, and your brain has that memory of what you used to be like. So it will take time and effort to get past those scars that have healed. I don't know how to replace my therapist. Some people feel that when they've completed their therapy and they feel like they've grown and learned a lot and able to cope on their own without a therapist, and that their time has come to not have a therapist anymore, that's a very scary moment to be without your therapist. And that's something you need to work on. And whether then you exchange it for a good friend, or somebody else that you can speak to, or maybe even an anonymous person. Maybe there's a phone service you can use that's anonymous, where you can offload your concerns and theories and worries. So that's an alternative option. Should I become a counselor? That's a good one. Lots of people feel like they invest a lot of time and they learn a lot of interesting things and a lot of insights about themselves and insights about other people, and feel that they can then go out and give back to the community and help fix other people. That is natural and normal, but not everybody is designed to be a counselor. Me, I could never be a counselor because I am far too impatient. And I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that. I'm in love with my counselor. Wow. In love with your counselor. Now, you'd be surprised at how common this is, to the point that there is policies and procedures in place for this to be mitigated and to try and stop this, and also that in court cases, it comes up a lot because people are very vulnerable, and then they get this really strong bond with their therapist. But like I said before, they are not your friend. They are a paid professional. But it's normal for you to have feelings towards your therapist because of that truly deep connection. That is very, very normal. And you should talk about it. It may make you feel uncomfortable, may make the therapist uncomfortable. But if you talk about it, then you can learn from it, grow from it, and work on from it. Also, for the therapist, you have to think that occasionally a therapist will be attracted to a man or a woman, and they have a lot of issues and problems themselves, and 99% of good therapists will have their own therapist, will have somebody that they talk to on a professional level so they can offload. They don't give out any names and they don't give out any details, but they also do have to offload, whether it be to a peer of their same level or their superior in a company, or if they're private, they may have a private superior experienced therapist that they speak to offload some of these hard issues. So yeah, that's a normal thing. I explained to my loved one their problems and they're angry with me. Again, this is very, very common. Once you get through counseling and you learn a lot about it and find it really therapeutic and enjoyable, and you want to share that with your loved ones, but they don't have the same understanding or knowledge or enthusiasm for this new knowledge and this new insight. And often we'll be, since you've been there, and that can create more problems and more issues. And that's a very difficult step to overcome. You may find it better not to talk about what you've learned through your therapy sessions, because often that will get somebody's back up to make them think that you know better than them, and so that you're judging them and they're lower down. So it may be better not to discuss what you've learned through your knowledge of counseling and therapy. Okay. How do I repair myself? Interesting. Okay. So I think the easiest way to repair yourself is to reflect upon your behaviors and attitudes, and sometimes write a journal, or sometimes talk to somebody that respects you and can give you an honest, unbiased opinion where you don't take it personally, or speak to another counselor. But repairing yourself is a healthy way to regulate your behaviors, your moods, your attitudes, and who you are as a person. That is very healthy, very good, and something we should all work on. Okay. Why are we so complicated? Transference, being screwed up by our parents. Yes, unfortunately, in this world now, we are educated and able to access information. We realize now that our parents never had a handbook. They never had all the knowledge and experience and education that we had and that's available at our fingertips. You're going to really learn how to forgive your parents, that they did the best they can at that time. My parents hit me, my mother hit me. I had some really rough days, rough weeks. We had rough years of moving different places. But you forgive and you love because they did the best they can at that time. And you're going to do the best you can for your children at this time. Nobody has all the answers. There is no perfect parent. It's impossible. It's just about empathy and forgiveness. Acceptance of baggage and hang-ups, being self-aware. So once you're self-aware of your own issues, your own baggage and your own hang-ups and your own transference, and you see that in your loved ones, you come to a point where you can accept it and you can give a little bit of resilience and forgiveness for those little idiosyncrasies, those little things that make somebody a perfect person. Those, I know that's irony, that's oxymoron. Those things that make somebody perfect are those flaws, are those hang-ups, that baggage, that transference, that makes them human. We are all human. We all have some kind of baggage. And knowing it and seeing it and then accepting it and allowing forgiveness and love and empathy, that's definitely the way to move forward in accepting the baggage of other people. All right. Finally, the last thing I want to discuss is that after all this self-realization and self-reflection and personal growth, eventually we come to a point where we see there's slight anxiety or feelings and thoughts towards death. Everything comes back round to death because there is nothing after death. It's end, it's lights out, snuffed out the candle, it's finished, final. But we always end up coming back to it. A lot of anxiety, a lot of issues, all comes down to death anxiety. Now, my favorite author in regards to counseling books, and probably my favorite author of all time, is Dr. Irvine Yalom. And I've read a number of his books. And it seems that some of the other books have the same kind of theory, that the best way to accept death is to accept it that you've done your best and that you've done all the things you wanted to do in life. Don't wait until you're 70, 80, retired and have money and don't have to worry about the kids. It's never going to happen. Nobody ever on their deathbed said, I wish I spent more time at the office. Time is so very, very precious. You can never get it back. All right. If you have money, then you can buy time, I suppose, by employing people to do things for you. But ultimately, you cannot get time back. And we're all going to die. No matter what anybody says, we are all going to die. So accepting that as a role model for your children, a role model for other people around you. There was a study done where a nurse working with palliative care patients said that she held the hands of many, many hundreds of dying patients. And she said they all said the same thing. They all had the same thing on their mind. And that's that they avoid having regrets by doing what they wanted to do, having the courage to say what they wanted to say, live the life that they wanted to live. All right, that just permeates through all the conversations. Having the courage to live the life you want to live and say the things that you want to say. All right, do things that you want to do, that you're capable of doing. Once you get to that point, then death is a lot less scary. I could put in some amazing quote now saying how flowers smell sweeter the closer you are to the grave. And that is a very true statement, because as you get older and you realize that you are going to die, and you savor those precious moments, those seconds, those minutes, those days with the people you love, doing the things that you love, then you can kind of accept the fact that death is inevitable and there's no escaping it. So the best way to deal with it is being a mature, respected role model for those around you. All right? Those people around you, now you're dying, it doesn't matter, you're going away, it doesn't matter. But those people you leave behind, they're grieving, they're sad, they're upset, they're distraught. And if you can do something to help them in their hour of need, to help not think about yourself, but to think about other people around you, those loved ones, if you can do something for them, then that will help get you through to the next life. Well, I don't believe it's next life, but will help you get through. Will help them get through. Will help you live on in their memories of what an amazing person you are. Because on your deathbed, you are thinking about them. Not thinking about, oh, have you cancelled the milk? Have you cancelled this? Have you done that? No. You think about these people that are around you, these people that you love. All right? That inspire them. Have a great life. Tell them that you've had a great life, that your body is tired and you're giving up this body that's worn out because you had a great life. Think about those people. That is the best way that you can be a role model to these people, to the people that you love. Okay, that's all we have time for today. And as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And have fun learning English. If you don't have fun, you're not going to learn. Okay, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.